The Natchez Trace Parkway is a picturesque 444-mile scenic drive that stretches from Natchez, Mississippi to Nashville, Tennessee. This historic route follows a 10,000-year-old footpath used by Native Americans, early explorers, and settlers, offering a journey through time and nature. It's one of the most popular motorcycle routes in the southern United States due to its historical stops, scenery, minimal traffic and curvy roads, and of course, the southern cuisine you can find in the nearby towns. I'll be spending 2 full days riding the trace in its entirety, and while it's not enough time to see everything it has to offer, it's plenty of time to experience this unique and highly underrated scenic byway. Good morning, y'all, from Natchez, Mississippi. Today I am starting a 444-mile ride, taking 2 days to do it, up the Natchez Trace Parkway, or the Trace as locals tend to call it. I've been wanting to do this ride for a while, so I'm super excited to take you guys along for the ride. This is a ride that you could probably do a handful of times and not run out of things to see, eat, or do along the way. But I'm gonna try and do as much of it as possible in the next 2 days. I am currently here in April, so the weather is gorgeous. The trees are vibrantly green. I've heard it's also really cool to do this ride in the fall when the leaves are turning yellows and oranges and it cools down a little bit in temperature because we are in the south and it does get hot and muggy here in the summer months. I started the ride in Natchez. I actually got here around 5 p.m. last night. And I wanted to have dinner here and kind of check the town out a little bit more than just starting here, in the morning and passing through. And I'm so glad I did decide to stop here last night and stay the night here because this town is so cool. There is so much history. There's so many historical buildings. I went and got dinner last night around 5 p.m. down in an area called Under the Hill. So I'm currently at the top of the hill right now, which overlooks the Mississippi River. It is absolutely gorgeous. I watched the sunset from up here last night, which I would highly recommend doing if you do come here. But under the hill, there are a couple of restaurants down there, and that's an old historical area that kind of used to be like the Wild West from what it sounds like. There's some info boards down there that you'll have to read if you come here. And I went to the Magnolia Cafe. They have kind of Gulf Coast Cajun inspired dishes on their menu. I had their fried green tomatoes as well as their barbecue shrimp and grits and grilled zucchini. But that place was great. I would recommend going. Get there early, especially on a weekend because it gets packed. Now I stayed at the Excellent Inn just south of town here. Very affordable hotel. They did have a little breakfast, which was great. So all I had to do was grab coffee this morning at Natchez Coffee Co. I also stopped at the Forks in the Road. That is, the remnants of what once was the second largest slave trading site in American history, which is very depressing, but I think it is good that they have at least preserved that history for people to read about and see. There's a lot of stuff like this in this town because of how historical Natchez is. Like I said, I wish I could stay here all day and check everything out, but I just don't have time on this trip. That being said, we have a lot to see and do and not a lot of time, so let's get going. And I need gas because just like the Blue Ridge Parkway, there is no gas right along the trace. So let's go. Okay, y'all, before we hit the road, I want to give a shout out to J&P Cycles for sponsoring today's video. J&P Cycles has been keeping America on 2 wheels for over 45 years, and I have personally been a customer of theirs for at least 10 of those. Most of the riding gear and the parts that you'll find on my Lowrider ST are available through J&P Cycles, and if you're curious, I do have a full parts list available in the video description as well as on my blog, which I do update periodically. For this trip, J&P gifted me the Saddlemen BR3400 Tactical Sissy Bar Bag to try out, as well as a Thrash and Supply bar bag. Big props to J&P for helping me make this video possible, as this is a scenic byway that y'all have asked me to cover numerous times, and I am so thrilled to finally film it. Okay, let's hit it. Now we've only made it a couple miles up the parkway. However, this is the first little kind of exhibit thing that I wanted to stop and see. This one explains the old trace. So this is the foot trail that people used to take all the way up to Nashville after starting in Natchez typically. I will go ahead and voice over after this stop and explain more of that to y'all while I'm riding. But for now, I wanted to show y'all something. Speaking of the foot trail, you can actually get to it right here. There's a little sign. Where is it? A little sign right there that says Old Trace. And the old trail is right here across the way. The 444-mile Natchez Trace Parkway roughly follows the Old Natchez Trace, a historic travel corridor used by American Indians, Kaintucks, post riders, European settlers, slave traders, soldiers, outlaws, and future presidents. I love that he's not wearing any shoes. It was politically, economically, socially, and militarily important for the United States in its early development. The modernized parkway highlights many historical points along the original trace through roadside information boards, nature trails, recreation areas, and historical landmarks. In some areas, you can even walk or ride along sections of the original path. The first stop of the day is the Emerald Mound. Built by the Natchez Indians, the Emerald Mound is the second largest Mississippian period ceremonial mound in the United States, surpassed only by Monk's Mound near Cahokia, Illinois. So basically, I just climbed up the side of this. Now I am essentially standing here, and there is a giant mound directly behind this sign. And here we are on top of what is left of this. Native American archaeological sites will always be a personal favorite of mine when I'm traveling. They're just so cool. I wish I had more time. We have to hit the road. There are over 100 stops and destinations along the trace, covering nearly 10,000 years of North American history and commemorating the most significant highway of the Old Southwest. It's very much so a scenic drive and history tour, all wrapped up into one. Now we're officially at stop number 2 for the day, but I wanted to mention a couple of things. One, check out this helmet hair brought to you by Mississippi Humidity. It is very humid here, even in April. I am very thankful for the tree cover because this canopy is keeping it pretty cooled off, but anytime I'm in the sun, I'm just like covered in sweat instantly, especially wearing a leather jacket right now and full riding gear. It's a lot. But number 2 is, even though you can pretty much put cruise control on your motorcycle and quite literally cruise down the trace, there's very minimal traffic. I'm here on a Monday right now. You got to still pay attention for the places that you want to stop at. I almost just missed stop number 2, which is the Sunken Trace, because I just missed the initial warning sign letting you know to turn. So I had to go a couple miles up, and there weren't any pull-offs. That is also something I'm noticing. There's really nowhere like to pull over and hang out in comparison to like the Blue Ridge Parkway, where there's pull-outs, you know, I feel like every 200 feet there's a place to pull over. So keep that in mind as well. Of course, you can just make a U-turn in the road, which is what I ended up doing, but sometimes it's kind of curvy and it's hard to tell if there's a car coming. So just be careful with what you decide to do. I waited till the road became straight again, and then I made a U-turn a few miles up. But let's go check out the Sunken Trace. Where the ground was relatively soft with lowest soil, thousands of walkers, riders, and wagons wore down these paths into sunken sections, such as this one. There are many areas of Sunken Trace that you can view along the parkway, but this one has become one of the most photographed areas of the entire route. This is pretty cool. And to think about the tens of thousands of people that have literally walked this trail, essentially 500 miles. Back in the day, you didn't have a phone, you barely had food, there were mosquitoes, they probably didn't have mosquito repellent of any kind, you know what I mean, like no natural remedies. Crazy storms that they couldn't forecast with their phones since they didn't exist. You've got Indians, you've got other people trying to kill you. Like, it must have just been very wild, a wild time living on the trace. Now, when I first started the ride this morning, I was kind of stressing about not being able to see everything today due to time. But I'm kind of finding out that most of these stops really only need a minute or two of your time. Some of them maybe 5 to 10 minutes. But overall, you really can see a lot and still enjoy your day without feeling too rushed. I started at 10 a.m. It is now 1 p.m. I've stopped a couple of times. I've been filming this video and, you know, I'm not feeling too behind schedule now, which is great. We still have a little ways to go today, but still, it hasn't been too bad. Right now, according to my map here, which, by the way, if y'all want access to this map that I'm looking at right now, I embed these on my blog, ridetofood.com, as well as in the video descriptions. But if you want more insight on the Natchez Trace, and maybe there's some stuff that I just forget to say in this video, it'll definitely be in the blog, which I'll also link either up here or down in the video description, or probably both. Looks like our next stop is Jackson for some food. So I just got to Jackson, Mississippi, and there's a barbecue spot here in town that's been on my list to try. So we are at the Pig and Pint. It's kind of in North Jackson. I'm not too familiar with this city, to be honest, but there is a lot to see, eat, and do here. But unfortunately, on this trip, the only thing I have time to do is stop for lunch here at the Pig and Pint. I got some of their brisket, and I completely messed up when I ordered, and I forgot to tell them I wanted moist brisket, so I got a lot of lean brisket, which I'm really bummed about, to be honest, but that's my bad. And then I also got a fried green tomato BLT, and it looks really, really good. And then I was gonna get mac and cheese, but unfortunately they're out. So I got their Banana Foster banana pudding instead to try, because it's always a good second option. Now, you'll probably notice I've been ordering lots of fried green tomatoes on this trip, and that's because it's a thing like you kind of have to do when you're in the South. They're not on menus all over the country, but they are on a lot of menus here, and I'm gonna enjoy them while I can because I love fried green tomatoes, and I've never had them in a BLT, so that's why I got this. Let's dig in because we need to get back on the road. So I'm gonna go ahead and try this sandwich without any brisket on it first. This sandwich is so good. The bacon's really tender and it just like falls apart as you're eating it. Like, it's not chewy at all. I hate when I get a BLT and the bacon just like comes out as you bite into it. So this is delicious. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of brisket to this final piece here on this side of the sandwich. Kind of see it there. That's the way to do it right there. Let's go ahead and just try this brisket on its own. The worst part about lean brisket is it's not moist, for lack of better terms. It dries out very quickly, which makes it really hard to eat sometimes. And while this is really flavorful and good, it's not moist brisket, so I'm bummed and mad at myself for riding all the way here and forgetting to ask. But that's on me, not on them. All right, well, last but not least is the Bananas Foster banana pudding. And if you don't know what Bananas Foster is, it's essentially like a dessert, and it's got this like cinnamony rum syrup over the bananas, and it comes with ice cream. So this is kind of their take on it with, you know, banana pudding, which you can find at most barbecue restaurants. So let's go ahead and dig in. Look at this. You can kind of see all the layers there. I'm here for this. I would come back here just for this. I'll just put it that way. Well, I'd say that the Bananas Foster banana pudding made up for me almost having a mild minty bee for not ordering moist brisket and just getting lean. That was a traumatic lunch experience that I got to share with y'all. I would come back here. I just, I'm gonna order moist brisket, and that's the last time we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna finish this soda water and we're gonna get back on the road. About 30 minutes north of Jackson, you'll find the Cypress Swamp, one of the more popular stops along the trace. I'm a big fan of boardwalks that go through swampy areas, but there's one thing they all have in similarity: mosquitoes. The trail can take 20 minutes to complete, but I chose to snap a few photos and spare myself the bug bites this time. This local guy was going into the swamp as I was coming out, and he was like, "Isn't this weather amazing? It just doesn't get any better." And I was like, "Yeah, for you, because you're a local. It's hot as hell and humid for me." This thing's a bowl of soup. After the Cypress Swamps, most of the attractions I chose to stop and see between Jackson and Tupelo were related to Native American history, like the Choctaw Boundary and the Bynum Mounds, most of which didn't involve me stopping for long. If I were to do it all over again, I would make time to stop at French Camp, but due to lack of time, I had to keep going to make it off the trace before nightfall. Good morning from Tupelo, Mississippi. I got here right about when the sun set last night, which was perfect timing to get off the trace. Like I was told yesterday, do not ride it at night, and that proved to be very true. As soon as the sun began to set, I saw numerous deer on the trace, so definitely keep that in mind. Do not ride it at night. And do plan for it to take longer than you think it's going to take, especially if you want to check anything out along the way. There are a lot of things that I stopped and checked out yesterday, and I spent 5, maybe 10 minutes there. There was also a lot of things that I pulled in. I read the info sign and I just kept going, and I wasn't even there for 45 seconds. But it does take a lot of time, and personally, I felt that the stretch from Jackson to Tupelo, which is about 150 miles, got a little boring, and I was getting kind of sleepy here and there, and I don't think it was lunch. I genuinely think I was just getting bored of the scenery sometimes. So I had to stop a few times just to drink some water and try and liven myself back up to finish the ride. It is gorgeous. It is nice that there's no commercial vehicles on the route. I got to basically ride in what felt like the middle of nowhere and peaceful wilderness tranquility for 260 miles yesterday. But in reality, there were a couple times where you really weren't too far from civilization. So I had fun. I definitely am stoked to do today's ride. It's supposed to get even prettier as we head into Tennessee. But first, I want to check out a few things here in Tupelo, which is why I stayed the night here last night. I stayed at a Sure Stay Best Western, pretty close to the trace. The room was only $60, so it made sense to me. It checked all the boxes. It felt safe. My bike's fine. I would definitely recommend staying here. And yeah, we're gonna go grab coffee, check some other things out, grab lunch, and then hit the road. I just had the best latte that I've had on this entire trip over the last week that I've been on the road here in Tupelo, Mississippi at Lost and Found Coffee Company. There's a dude making coffee that had a Misfits t-shirt on, which to me meant I was in the right spot. This spot was great, amazing coffee. I would highly recommend checking it out. And also, it was a great way to kill time before heading over to the Elvis Presley Birthplace and Museum, which is where we're headed to next. It opens at 9, so I needed a place to go beforehand, and also I needed caffeine, because y'all know I live on caffeine when I'm on the road. So let's head over to our next spot. Elvis Presley was born in Tupelo, Mississippi on January 8, 1935 to Vernon and Gladys Presley, and lived in various parts of town until his family moved to Memphis when he was 13 years old in search of better financial opportunities. Elvis's revolutionary music style blended the blues he first heard as a youth in Tupelo with country, pop, and gospel. Today, you can tour the house Elvis was born in, which features the original fireplace, icebox, and stove used by the Presleys, in addition to a museum on site that does not allow any photos or videos to be taken while inside. But I would highly recommend checking it out if you enjoy reading about history. Tupelo's very own Hillbilly Cat later became known as the King of Rock and Roll before dying at the age of 42 in 1977. Today, Elvis is one of the most iconic musicians in American history. So I just spent about an hour and a half here at the Elvis Presley Birthplace and Museum. highly recommend checking this out. Even if you're not the biggest Elvis Presley fan, I think that if you are a fan of music, this is a really cool place to visit just because of the impact that he has had on the music industry, from country music to rock and roll. I mean, just everything. I will say that I'm one of the youngest people here today, which has been very interesting. Everyone is easily 75 plus that's here, and they're coming off these big tour buses now. So that was the next tip I was going to give y'all, is to get here early. I got here at about 9:15 a.m. and I'm so glad I did, because that was just enough time to get here before the crowds and tour the museum, as well as go inside of his boyhood home, his birthplace home. So definitely give yourself about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of time if you really want to walk around and see everything. I saw what I wanted to see, which was the museum and the house, and now it is time to go to lunch. And I've heard so many good things about this next stop. It's Neon Pig, and they have been voted to have the best burgers in America. So I'm really, really excited to get one. And a girl at the coffee shop this morning told me that I had to get the Parmesan fries. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, I couldn't leave Tupelo without coming to the Neon Pig. This place has been voted having the best burgers in America, so naturally I got their smash burger, which is the one that was awarded that prize. Let me go ahead and read what's all in it to tell you all about. It's got a smash burger patty, bacon bits, cheddar cheese, quick pickles, pickled onion, hoisin sauce, comeback sauce, which is a house-made sauce, now on a ciabatta bun. Let's go ahead and dig in. Oh my God. There are so many different flavors. This thing is just dripping juices and grease out of it. It is so good. It's unlike any burger I've ever had, to be honest, but that's a good thing, and I can see why it's won awards. Those house-made pickles and pickled onions are fire. Now, this morning at the coffee shop, a girl told me I had to get their fries because they're super good and to be sure to add the Parmesan. So I did just that. These are perfect. They don't even need a sauce. They're like perfectly crispy on the outside, nice and like fluffy on the inside. Now this is their in-house Alabama white sauce that I wanted to kind of try with the burger as well as the fries. That's actually really good. I wish I could eat all these, but it would be a long, sleepy ride to Nashville today. Now we have just under 200 miles to do on the Natchez Trace Parkway today to get to Nashville. It's about noon here, so we'll see how long it actually takes. Google Maps says it'll take 4.5 hours without stops, but of course we're going to be stopping a little bit because there's a handful of things I do want to check out and show you. The sun sets at about 7:30 p.m. right now, so in theory I have about 7.5 hours to do a 4.5 hour ride. So let's go ahead and hit the road and see how long it actually takes us to get there.
So far, Day 2's stops were similar to many of the stops along the southernmost portion of the trace, usually only taking a few minutes or less to check out. As I got closer to Tennessee, the scenery fortunately began to change, leaving behind the fields, pine trees, and straight-ish roads that were becoming a common theme in Mississippi and Alabama.
I decided to finally pull over and hang out for a little bit. I believe this stop is called Sweetwater Branch. The riding has been great today. I've really enjoyed it. We're starting to get a little further north in Tennessee. I think I'm about 80 miles from the northern terminus, and as y'all can kind of see in the background here, a lot of the trees don't have their leaves yet, so it's still early spring, all things considered, in Tennessee in comparison to the Alabama and Mississippi portions of the Natchez Trace Parkway. I'm sure in the next week or two these trees will be filled with leaves, but they're just now kind of starting to sprout out. But I've just been hanging out down here, enjoying the wind and the birds and the babbling brook behind me here. It's been a great day, gorgeous weather. The cloud coverage has kept the sun and the humidity away, which is awesome. And yeah, Not too many cars on the trace either, once again, which I am absolutely loving. I've just been listening to music through my Lexan and enjoying the ride, so we'll see what we get to next.
A highlight of the afternoon was getting to ride on 2 different sections of the old trace. This is an optional unpaved portion of the Natchez Trace Parkway, which had been widened in the early 1800s to be passable by wagon. Both sections are very doable on a motorcycle, but I would be cautious after a rainstorm or in the fall when it's covered in leaves.
As we're inching close to Nashville, I'm ticking off a couple more things that I wanted to see on this stretch of the road. And one of the things I wanted to for sure stop and see was the Meriwether Lewis Monument and Gravesite. There's also a campground here, so you can camp. It's like a mile away in this little vicinity. They're all RV spots. I went and rode through it just to check it out for future trips. They are first come, first serve, I believe, so keep that in mind if you think about staying here. There might be a campsite, there might not be a campsite, so yes, but this is a pretty cool stop. Definitely different from all the other stuff we've seen so far. And for those wondering, the house behind me, this is called the Grinder House, and this is where, I think this is actually a replica. I don't think this is real. It doesn't say though. But this is essentially where he died.
While I really enjoyed the southernmost section of the trace near Natchez, it's undeniable that the rolling hills of Tennessee are the best part to ride on a motorcycle. The closer I got to Nashville, the better the road and scenery became.
I saw so many turkeys on that last ride. That was crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen that many wild turkeys just like on the side of the road. We are currently in Leipers Fork. I almost made it to the end of the trace, but I wasn't sure if I would make it gas-wise. My gas light had been on for a while, so I just decided to go ahead and stop here. Now, this is a place I wanted to feature in this video anyway, because if you're gonna be riding the trace, especially coming to Nashville or coming from Nashville, this is a spot that most people on a motorcycle are going to stop at. If you talk to anyone from Nashville, they'll probably tell you, oh, you gotta go to Leipers Fork. It's a very popular destination for motorcyclists. Unfortunately, I don't have time to check it out today and show it to y'all, but it is something I would like to do eventually. I've actually never been, but it's been on my list for a long time. But there's also another place that's been on my list for a while to actually eat at, and we're gonna go ahead and go there now. It's the Loveless Cafe. It's just up the road here at the end of the trace. So we're almost there. We're almost at the end.
2 days, 444 miles, and some change later, I had officially made it to the northern terminus of the Natchez Trace Parkway.
Right as the sun is going down, we made it to the Loveless Cafe.
There's no better way to wrap up 2 days exploring the Natchez Trace Parkway than with a meal at the Loveless Cafe. For over 70 years, the Loveless Cafe has been making their famous biscuits and southern, made-from-scratch meals. Their biscuits are so famous that they make over 10,000 a day and serve over 500,000 people every year.
Oh my god. I've heard so much hype around these. The hype is real. Oh my gosh.
The Loveless Cafe is a Nashville landmark and conveniently sits right at the northern terminus of the Natchez Trace Parkway.
Gonna go ahead and take advantage of the neon sign here to wrap up this video. But with the sign of the Loveless Cafe, that means that we have completed the entire Natchez Trace Parkway. That ride far exceeded any expectation I had for it. I really enjoyed myself, and it was great. I would highly recommend riding the entire thing in 2 days, if not 3. I think 3 would have been a sweet spot too, but 2 days was really good, and it took an entire 3 days to do with all the stops that I did. I actually got right to the end of the trace right at sunset. So now it's time for me to go crash on a friend's couch here in Nashville for the night and continue on my journey. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until the next one, I'll see you all on the road. Later, y'all.